Hey everyone, welcome back to another recap podcast from SNXweave, where we give quick weekly recaps of news and important updates from the previous week from the Spartan Council and core contributors, as well as discuss what the Grants Council and ambassadors are up to, so let's get started. The PERPS V3 audit is finished and is just pending its final report now before the vote is opened. Kane asked how the CCs saw PERPS markets and OI scaling on base. Veef responded, saying the first live tests of V2 highlighted some minor issues that needed to be corrected before OI and markets could scale. The same initial cautious approach will be taken with V3 to allow testing in a low-risk environment. Another prerequisite is initial LP TVL. There needs to be some critical mass of USDC LP activity on base before PERPS becomes a functional product there. The technical aspects of the release should be ready to scale up in mid to late January, and the economic aspect is still an unknown. Veef estimates roughly $50 million in USDC to replicate V2X functionality, but the product could launch with more limited caps at around $10 million of USDC. Caleb added that arbitrageurs are an important part of the way V2X functions, and there needs to be incentive for them to participate on base, where their participation will be monitored as part of the scale-up. Markets will rely exclusively on Pyth oracles on base, and due to their design, they are available on any chain that Synthetix deploys on, instead of having to deploy new contracts to each chain for push oracles. With V2 possibly reaching a maturity stage in terms of the number of markets it can support, there will be an opportunity to launch new markets on base that will be exclusive to that deployment. There were also a couple of SIP presentations last week, so let's briefly review them. The first was SIP 2043 to end SNX inflation. If this SIP is implemented, inflation will be reduced to zero in the claim week following the vote. Inflation was introduced in 2019 to incentivize staking in the recently deployed Synthetix network following the pivot from Haven. It was critical that the staking ratio was high in the early period of the network to scale liquidity, but Kane believes the reputation of SNX as an inflationary token is harming the protocol. Even if inflation were to be reduced to a very low level, it's difficult to cut through that narrative. As inflation has changed over the past couple of years, there has been limited change to the staking ratio, which represents the protocol participation rate for SNX holders. So there's no evidence that reducing or eliminating inflation will harm the SNX staking pool. It may, however, make more people willing to hold the token without fear of being diluted by inflation. Kane added that this is a great time to do it with the launch of Andromeda to maximize the impact of that launch. Adam added that he has spoken with VCs who are more dialed in than your average user and still believe SNX is hyperinflationary, and have therefore avoided the token as a result. It's too complicated to explain how inflation has dropped versus simple inflation is over explanation. This move may also free up some more SUSD for trading, as stakers would not have to hoard the stablecoin to manage their C ratio. Network health would have to be monitored closely in the early days of this new experiment, but Kane thinks the liquidation penalty is enough incentive for LPs to maintain their C ratio. The next presentation was SIP 351 to implement cross-chain SNX token transfers on base via Chainlink's CCIP. This SIP proposes enabling CCIP for secure cross-chain SNX token transfer between Ethereum and Base. No modification is required for the existing SNX token contract on Ethereum, and no changes are needed for existing V2X contracts. The bridge would allow users to avoid the 7-day lock-in period from L2 to L1. L2 to L2 transfers are also possible via this bridge, and the Synthetix protocol would maintain ownership of the token contract that enables the bridge. Each token and lane, the direction of travel between networks, can be configured with its own rate limit. CCIP has been developed with security in mind and the capability to handle advanced transactions in the future. Execution networks act separately from anomaly detection and risk management systems, but all three must achieve consensus for any transaction to be executed. There are currently a handful of tokens enabled for CCIP bridge transfer, including SNXUSD, and Aave's Go. Lastly, the ambassadors had a Spartan Space last week with Infinix and Lit Protocol with over 55 listeners. And during their meeting last week, they discussed their OP votes for the 2 new recent votes that ended a few days ago. And they hashed out some projects that are in the current Optimism RPG funding round. Every project in the Synthetics ecosystem public goods list has passed quorum, which is huge. The ambassadors played a vital role in securing votes and amplifying our ecosystem to other badge holders. Master Mojo is also planning to release a new SNX Ambassador Governance Twitter post to summarize it all once he gets the results back. And that's it for today's updates. Be sure to check out our weekly recap blog post, share this podcast link, and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear more about from SNXweave. Thanks for listening.